after the high school play, there's a bit of a panic attack kind of thing, which I've just had panic attacks in my life. So I just kind of went there. I hyperventilated for maybe an hour and a half, for as many takes as we could get. Very sweetly, Hazel at a certain point, after maybe 8 or 10 takes, tapped Drew and was like, "We're gonna have to drive him to the hospital if we keep going. Like this is. I think we got it. Like we can find what we need in here. Like let's cut him loose."
Welcome to the Filmmaker Mixer podcast, the podcast by filmmakers for filmmakers. Filmmaker Mixer is a creative hub where aspiring and established filmmakers come together to share experiences, insights, strategies, and inspiration.
Hello, everybody. This is the Filmmaker Mixer podcast, and we are talking about a new film that's just coming out. We've got Hazel Hering and Oliver Austin and Andrew Paterson, and we're talking about American Flake. I just saw the film. I really enjoyed it. So, folks, welcome.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you. Yeah.
Well, Andrew, let's start with you. Where did this idea come from? Why this story and why now?
It actually kind of the seed of it was like a COVID story. I was in,
I,
it was
I hear
COVID.
that a lot in the film world.
Yeah, things are starting to, come out now and,
Yeah,
spend
yeah.
that amount of time. But no, it kind of started out as like a short film in COVID. I was in lockdown, and, I had this idea, to, have like a stoner running around his apartment complex, talking to different, neighbors, trying to find a bag of chips. And then that would like mask something darker. And then that idea basically just like lived in my brain for a few years, didn't end up making that short. And then when Hazel and I kind of, reconnected a few years ago, that kind of popped back out of the woodwork. And then a bunch of other, stars aligned as well. Yeah.
And you and Hazel and Oliver, did I read this correctly? You all went to school together, or how do you guys know each other?
Yeah.
Yeah, we basically grew up together, like
Oh,
middle
no kidding.
school onward.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys have known each other that long.
Yeah,
We
grew
were
up
all
together
in Fiddler on the Roof in 8th grade.
Is that right?
yeah.
Drew was
Oh.
Tevye.
Oh, how cool. That's pretty
Guilty.
awesome.
Yeah.
And so
It was so fun.
were you always, Andrew, I'll stay with you just for a second. Were you always wanting to get into film at that young age?
No, actually, I was really into theater in middle school, and I kind of like falling in love with theater was this like big thing for me, around sixth, seventh grade, where I was like, maybe this is it. And then I continued theater in high school, and then Hazel and I kind of got close, like our sophomore year of high school, and Hazel was already on the movie train, and so we essentially like would go back to her house after high school, and she would just like roll her favorites, right? And it was like basically like my film school. It's the closest thing I've had to film school. And she would roll like Chasing Amy and Boogie Nights and all this stuff. And I remember kind of my love of theater, transitioning into a love of film around like maybe 15. Yeah.
And Hazel, so what got you interested in storytelling and acting and filmmaking? It obviously started at a young age.
Yeah, I really have to credit my dad who introduced me to a lot of the classics very young. He was big into film noir and
Oh, nice. Like what kind of
Kubrick.
classics? What'd you watch?
Like Double Indemnity,
Oh,
The
wow.
Postman Always Rings Twice, Spartacus.
And how old were you?
I was pretty young, like
That's
elementary
awesome.
school for sure. But we had a huge DVD collection. We loved like thrifting for DVDs. That was a big activity in my childhood. So yeah, back when DVDs were a thing, I would just like go through the cabinets and pick one out and watch it. And but yeah, my dad really curated that library, which then I showed to Drew and my other friends.
And Oliver, your story, how did you, because you don't have as much acting experience when you got into this film, is that correct or no?
Yeah, not at all. So, I mean, we touched on the theater in 8th grade, and that was my first and last kind of soiree with the stage. And then I think around COVID times, Drew had written like a little web series kind of thing that I helped shoot in. And that was fun, and I thought like, oh, it'd just be like a cool thing to do with my buddy. And then they approached me with this larger idea, and I was kind of like, all right, guys, but like we I don't know how to act, so we're gonna have to. I don't know, at least make this character close to home, if anything, you know?
Well, you're supernatural in it. I mean, it's a really laid back acting style. I mean, and I want to come to
Super late.
you. Yeah, I want to I want to come to you on this in a second, Andrew. But so Oliver, so is this something you want to get more into? You want to do more acting, or?
Yeah, I would totally be open
Yeah.
to it. I think, I mean, these two, moved down to kind of LA area right after high school and really became steeped in the industry and have been, making their path in it. And I kind of just floated around for a long time. I worked at a vape shop for almost a decade, and I've been cooking for the last few years,
Oh, nice.
which is something I enjoy a lot. And yeah, who knows, maybe looking for the next thing now. So I'm definitely open to it. And well, I will say. I have a hard time claiming the acting in it because I feel like again we really made the role close enough for me to just kind of fall into it. But I've been playing a character for 30 years now, so it was pretty easy to just do it in front of a camera, especially with the team that we had around us.
Sure. And Andrew, getting back to that acting style, you chose to do a film that, in some hands, could have been really over the top.
Yeah.
And you chose to make it grounded and real, and you tackled some heavy stuff in there and couched it in this cool little vibe of the town and the people. Why that choice? Was that always the take you wanted?
Well, that's a good question. I think it wasn't always the take I wanted in the sense that I think it started out a little bit more gimmicky. In the search of the chips was kind of a little bit more of the was a little bit more gimmicky, was more centralized. I think in the story, and we talked a lot during the inception of like do we how crazy is the search for chips? Is Oliver getting on a plane and going to the South or California and finding them? Like
Is
there
is
were a
it
lot
the
of
uh, is it the
yeah.
after hours of chips?
Exactly. It's the after hours of chips. But then I thought ultimately, like, we wanted to do so many things. We wanted it to be a hangout movie, stoner comedy, a drama, like a kind of PTA style, all these different characters, and I think the only way that we could have a movie that like does Chip Mom and the noir and all of these really goofy, insane things, but then also is a movie about grief is like by keeping it super grounded and like character focused the whole way through. Because then like, you can really be in this guy's brain and, you fall with him and you rise with him and you are absurd with him. And, it all feels still right, rather than like picking one crazy tone and sticking with that. So yeah.
So it sounds like it was really, when the idea came in, it was really more character first.
Yeah, it really was. It definitely was. I think we talked a lot about like high concept and low concept stuff, and I think like low concept is often character focused rather than like plot focused. And I love low concept movies. Like I love Licorice Pizza and mid '90s and movies where you just like sit with characters and like hear them out. And like I knew that this movie had. I liked the idea that this had like this kind of strong, almost traditional like kind of pitch in the middle of it, but that what surrounded it was like just character work and like hanging out with these people.
Right.
Yeah. Hazel would, whenever we would be like, do we have enough chips? Like, are there enough chips? Hazel would always be like, it's not about the chips. So like, yeah.
Yeah, I like that T-shirt. It's not about the chips. Um,
Exactly.
so Hazel, I want to come to you. How does acting inform you as a producer, and how does being a producer inform you in acting? How do the two connect?
It is a really good question. I think as an actor, especially with developing the story and working in post, you kind of in high school, we had a pretty amazing acting teacher who was really hard on us, but he really hammered in the idea of like acting is about one person getting another person to do something. And I think
Hmm.
that's like a really critical way to look at writing too. And just like everybody always has a motive. They always want something from the other person. And so when we were like developing these scenes and also just like watching at the monitor, I felt like there were a lot of kind of acting notes that I could give, having like had that background of kind of like how to view acting. And then as a producer, I guess I just like have an eye for continuity. I know how to like, when I'm acting, you do it the same way every time. You give like a few options, but you keep your hands in the same spot. Yeah, there's
Well,
things to look for that make it easier in the editing
w-
process.
well, you mentioned, an actor, a character is wanting another character to do something. It's kind of what a producer does too.
Very true. Yeah, you're always needing somebody to do something for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Oliver, I want to come back to you for a second. In the acting world, I know you said you liked this character because it was something you could relate to. It was something that was, how did you put it? It was something that was close to home, I guess. Um, is there a character that you'd like to explore that's sort of out of your comfort zone, so to speak?
Oh, I mean, well, so this one is like really like I think we've been the running thing we say is it's 80% me and 20% different circumstances, right?
Right.
In thinking about like different roles or different places to go, I would love to be the villain at some point. Like I think that I don't Drew is always working on new scripts and stuff, and there's been a couple that have come past my desk where I'm like, oh, like real unhinged kind of like smiley bad guy would be a very fun way to play it. Not quite Joker, but like in that kind of wheelhouse of like manic kind of crazy, I don't know, just unpredictable. I think that would be really fun. And then yeah, like I just always am telling jokes. I always like being funny. So that's a little bit closer to this character, but anything where I can make people laugh is definitely something that I would be interested in.
Sure. And Andrew, you were talking about the influence of 90s films. And I know in the notes you talked about Clerks and some of those films. I'm curious what you guys shot on because the look was definitely had that old school kind of feel to it. Um,
Yeah.
you almost look, were you using like a 16 millimeter LUT or something? How did you get that look? What were
Yeah,
you,
no,
yeah.
we were actually on a red, but we did have vintage lenses.
Oh,
I
nice.
think they were vintage Zeiss lenses. I want to say I need to look back, but yeah, I think they were vintage Zeiss lenses. And then we definitely like we took after. There's a Smino music video. I think it's called 90 Proof, and that music video became our like big like okay, if we can make our movie look like this, then I think we have something. It's just a bunch of people like a bunch of friends hanging out in like a cool house in the country, and it's just like really soft. It's colorful and soft and punchy at the same time, and also kind of has that warmth of like '90s, blockbusters or '90s, hangout movies. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you built that look before you started. I mean, you didn't,
Oh
you kind
yeah,
of knew what
yeah.
yeah, gotcha.
No,
Well,
absolutely. It was, and it's so weird because, the look was, it's one of the only times I've ever done a project where, we had this idea in mind and I watched the final film now and it is how I imagined it, which is like the weirdest, coolest thing ever. But it's funny. Production's a weird, scary thing because I mean, Hazel remembers like, I think I got my first stills back from day one. And I remember being like, is this what I thought? Like I had like a whole hour of being like, is this what I pictured? Like, I can't even, like, now I can't even remember what I was thinking at any point during this writing process. Like, it just, like, it's so weird to see it actually, translate, even if it's what you want. But it was, and it, ended up looking like that music video and those war movies.
I remember after getting those first stills back, we talked about how when like you're envisioning it in your head, it's almost like a cartoon, like it's not like real
Yeah.
life. And then you see it as like real life, and it's almost like one of those experiences where like cartoon characters become, 3D and you're like, wait, this is real. It's not just in my head. It's like we actually created this story.
that's
Yeah.
cool. And I love those vintage lenses. I've got a bunch for my red camera. I've got an old, God, I've got like a super fast Takumar lens I use all the time, and it gives a really interesting look. And you lose all that automation, but it's a cool
Yeah.
look. Did you do the whole thing on those lenses?
We did actually. I believe we shot the entire movie on that red and those lenses. Yeah, because I believe we got the exact same package for pickups. The only thing was we shot our commercial, the kind of old '90s commercial that opens the film for the chips, our little infomercial.
Yeah, I like
That
that.
we shot. Yeah, thank you. That we shot on a Black Magic 6K, I believe. So that we went a little bit, rougher end for it. But then, yeah, vintage lenses and just an insanely talented DP, Tevin Teixeira, who just absolutely like knocked it out of the park. Yeah.
And Hazel, back to you on producing. I know there are a lot of different types of producers. There are sort of, creative producers, hands-on producers. What's your producing style? You mentioned earlier you were looking at the monitor. You sound like you're a very hands-on kind of producer.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely wearing a lot of hats. We were a small crew. There were definitely roles that had to be filled,
How
whether I was, go
I'm,
for
I'm
it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. How big of a footprint? How big of a crew are we talking about?
Most days we had about 16 people
Oh, that's not
total,
bad. Yeah.
including PAs. So like we didn't have a production manager, which big regret. So there was a lot of logistical stuff. I was constantly on my computer, just making sure we had enough extras, looking to the next day. It was kind of just like one day at a time, making sure the next location was locked, lunch was going to be ready on time, approving time cards, like all of that stuff. And then in between, when the action is called, going over to the monitor, making sure, looking for the performances and making sure the vision matched what we had in our heads, because the three of us all developed the story together, so I felt like we had this vision, we were all very aligned, and it being our first time doing this, it was kind of all hands on deck, and Oliver of course was like in front of the camera. So Drew and I, having our eyes on making sure that what was in front of us was what we envisioned. And then as soon as we called cut, I was like back on my laptop, making sure that our insurance was filed correctly and all of that stuff.
And did I read in the notes correctly? Did you shoot this in the three of your hometown, or did I get that wrong? Is that
We
right?
We
did.
did.
Yeah, we
Okay.
shot this in Eugene, Oregon. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow. And so I guess shooting there, because you guys grew up there, did that make it easier to get locations and lots of favors and things like that?
Oh my
American
God.
Flake would not exist without Eugene, Oregon. No,
So
they were
true.
all extremely excited, that we were asking to shoot in different places. It was everybody was so accommodating and just genuinely like very excited. Like we had like townsfolk coming out to be extras just every single day. And we were probably at a different, business in town. Yeah, every day or every other day. I want to say we shot at like 10 to 15 Eugene businesses.
Oh, wow.
Uh, yeah, so if you grew up in Eugene, this is going to be the Eugene movie. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It also, like it being a college town, it was so easy to get PAs and people who are interested in film, and it was really cool to be able to like teach some of these like college students, how to like be on a film set and like introduce them to that world. That was really special too. Everyone was just, our crew could not have been more amazing. Like everybody was so passionate and excited, and we got some amazing deals on equipment from vendors in Portland and Eugene. And yeah, like Andrew said, we couldn't have made this movie anywhere else on the budget that we had.
And Oliver, back to you. I kind of want to come back to the acting thing in the sense that, it's something you were just kind of getting into. Was there a scene that was more difficult than any other, that maybe not an obvious scene to the viewer, but something that you really had to get your brain wrapped around, or something that was tough, something to break?
I mean, I would probably have three if you had time for it. Yeah. I think my the realization of what we were doing, the first scene we filmed was Gale looking at his phone outside of a coffee shop. And when I rolled up that day, it kind of all came together. We had a huge rip van. We had a bunch of people around. We had like tables out for like food. And it kind of like all hit and was like, oh, okay, there's now a lot of people expecting me to be able to do this. So,
Here
and it
comes the pressure.
yeah, it wasn't necessarily a crazy hard scene, but it was like, oh, okay, you're really gonna have to grapple with this. So there it connected there. I would say that the after the high school play, there's a bit of a panic attack kind of thing, which I've just had panic attacks in my life, so I just kind of went there. I hyperventilated for maybe an hour and a half, for as many takes as we could get. Very sweetly, Hazel at a certain point, after maybe 8 or 10 takes, tapped Drew and was like, "We're gonna have to drive him to the hospital if we keep going. Like, yeah, like this is. I think we got it. Like, we can find what we need in here. Like, let's cut him loose." And then the final kind of resolution with Benny in the prop loft was definitely one where trying to find that more somber, more breaking emotion was really difficult, you know? And luckily everyone who tells me about it has said nice things about it that I'm trying to believe. Yeah.
Well,
And
what
I'll
about that?
also say those two really difficult emotional scenes were mostly like one take. So those
Oh, wow.
performances were really Oliver raw, like we weren't splicing together a performance for those scenes in particular. Like he really did
Yeah.
it.
And the banter between you and some of the characters, you got this kind of goofy little banter that goes back and forth. Was that ad-libbed or was that in the script or? Uh,
That's a. Oh, sorry.
no,
Go
no. Yeah,
for, I mean, tangent.
yeah, Andrew, we'll go to you.
Well, hey, kind of, there's a lot of different ways we did it. There was improvising on set, but kind of a cool thing we did that I plan to do on every movie I do in the future, and particularly comedies, is that like in a lot of like auditions and early reads when we're casting, is I just let people like improv from there. Like as long as the gist of the scene is there, I'm like fit the character to your voice and let's kind of see what happens, right? And so Cam Stone, who plays Starman in the movie, when he auditioned with Oliver. We did that thrift store scene, right? That's 5 minutes into the movie where they're doing the drug deal, and
Right,
it's
right,
very just
right.
like, yeah, it's loud and insane. And they just improvised the majority of that, and then I just rewrote it based off their improvisation, and we tweaked it. So a lot of it
Oh,
is like, yeah, writing it after improv, and like having multiple improv sessions and combining the best ideas. Yeah, I always want to rely on actors' voices to kind of hone the writing because, like, often the characters were written before they were cast.
right, right, right. Let everybody bring their best self to the table. That's smart. That's really smart. One of the things we like to talk about, especially when it comes to, indie films like this, the happy accidents. Anything that came up that you lost a set or lost an actor or had to think on your feet and actually came up with something better? We'll start with you, Hazel.
Ooh, one is that the original title of the film was a real chip brand.
Oh, really? I
Yes,
mean,
and
it was purposely that way, or you found out later
yes,
you'd
we
never
found
heard
a
of it and it
chip
was
brand.
okay.
No, we found a chip brand and we were like, this would make a great title. Let's write the movie. These will be the chips. So we reached out to them. And at first they were like, yeah, this sounds awesome. We'd love to have a movie named after us. It's a pretty small brand. And then we sent them the script and they were like, this is not family friendly. And they sent us a cease and desist.
Oh, wow, really?
So,
Gee
Yeah.
whiz.
so the title of the movie, was born, it is a fictional chip brand, but I think it's a much better title than what
Right.
the
Yeah.
original was going to be.
How about you, Andrew? Any happy accidents on the director's side?
Yeah, we actually, during our montage where Gail is starting to take pills for the first time, there's a beat where he's back at the arcade and he's playing. In the arcade that day, this little thing popped up that said, say no to drugs on the arcade. And we were like, well, this is crazy. So then we, obviously added that close up and we just waited for it to, kind of pop back onto the screen of the arcade cabinet. But I just like think that's the coolest thing in the world. Like it's my favorite, like in terms of like prop design like thing in the movie that pops up. Like I love it. It was made for us by somebody that I will be grateful for and never meet.
Sometimes the movie gods smile on you, you know?
Exactly.
Well, before we wrap up, Oliver and Hazel and Andrew, it's been wonderful chatting with you, but where can people find out, when this film screening and what's going on with the movies, or website or social media account, Andrew?
Yeah, we have a website, AmericanFlakeMovie.com. We also have American Flake Movie on Instagram. And then, yeah, we are B Team Studios is who made the movie. And we have a YouTube channel as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, folks, don't hang up right away. I'm going to stop the recording, but I enjoyed chatting with you and best of luck with the film.
Thank you
Likewise.
so
Thank you so
much.
much.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Filmmaker Mixer podcast, a podcast created and hosted by filmmakers Jeff Stolen and Andrew Lamping, and produced by Melody Lopez.
Our theme song was composed by Stephen D. Bennett.
Make sure to follow or subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to us on, and stay tuned for future episodes.